we crack on with the class, it's probably best that you have a couple of cushions there. It doesn't have to be meditation cushions like this. You can improvise and have some cushions from your sofa or a couple of pillows from your bed. It just allows us to have a little bit of height and not go straight into super deep stretches, and it's a little bit safer in that way. Also, making sure that we warm up prior to it. I'm going to take you through a generalised warm-up, but I would say maybe doing some of your own sun salutations prior to this class are best. And also, in regards to the circadian rhythm, doing stretching, like deep stretching at about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, because the core muscle temperature is at its highest then. And obviously after exercise it'll be higher then as well, so it's a little bit more pliable and the muscle will give you a little bit more. And I'm going to give you a little bit of information around that before we go on to the actual session. Now, if we think about the central nervous system, there's ways that we can actually tap into our flexibility that we really have, our genuine flexibility, and not allow our central nervous system to lock up and stop us from going into these stretches. And we need to understand how we can access these areas, this extra length within our musculature. Now, we've got two different mechanisms that sort of work together in the body. We've got the Golgi tendon organs and we've also got muscle spindles. Now, muscle spindles are what will stop you from going into the stretch, because it's like a protective mechanism of the muscle. Now, deep in the muscle belly, we have muscle fibers, and basically if you imagine like a coil, imagine a spring around these muscle fibers, and when this spring gets put onto a certain amount of length, it will send a message to the central nervous system, and it'll tell that muscle to contract. So it'll stop you from going into the muscle anymore, or it will cause your muscle to contract again, stopping you from lengthening that muscle. So we need to really try and find out how can we tap into this place that allows us to inhibit this reaction of the muscle spindles. And that's where the Golgi tendon organ comes in. The Golgi tendon organ does the opposite. It relaxes the muscle, or an autogenic inhibition it's called. It allows the muscle to switch off and you can get deeper into the stretch. Now, I've already talked about it before about using the breath, so I want you to really think about centering yourself in these stretches, because when you're doing these static, long developmental stretches, everything in your whole being will want to try and resist it and come away from it. But all you're going to do there is you're going to stop yourself from actually getting deeper into the stretch, and you won't get as much out of it. So we need to try and move to this place of calm, relaxation, use the breath to switch off this, switch into the parasympathetic nervous system mode and slow everything down. Then your body will start to trust you, and then you can get into the stretches a little bit deeper. So, come into this position first of all. Have your feet about double width shoulder width apart, hands behind you, and I want you to just start to rock the knees down. And we'll start slow, because this is a slow class. We'll basically be going through maybe like 5 key stretches through the whole of the class. So it's not about really going into tons and tons of movements. It's more about trying to find this place of comfort within discomfort, if you know what I mean. So we're trying to dampen this feeling of, well, it's discomfort, or pain, alright, because it is a little bit painful, but it's not a sharp pain that you're going to become injured from it. It's just this discomfort. Your body is not used to being in that position, and over time your body will get used to this. Now, bring the knees over towards the left hand side, plant that left hand down, and then bring the right arm over the top. Squeeze up through the hips, get a big stretch down the side of the body. Rock the knees over to the opposite side, plant the right hand, come up over the top. Now keep going between those two, and use the breath again. Inhale, exhale, inhale up to side, exhale back down towards centre, inhale, exhale, inhale, that's it. Just keep it nice, flowing movements. This isn't about doing too much at this point. We're just warming into the body. Hopefully you've had that warm up prior to doing this class. We are going to move into a couple of introductory stretches and movements. We'll do one sun salutation together. Alright, come round towards the front. We're going to just drop into our down facing dog first of all. Maybe pedal the knees a couple of times. And just have a walk around the mat. Feel these different tight areas and move the hips. Try and explore. There's no right or wrong at this point. All you're doing is finding the tight areas in the body. Trying to become conscious of that. Step back towards the back of the mat. Step round in front, cross the legs over, and then we meet back into our down facing dog. Push the bum to the sky, tilt the hips forwards, push into the floor, bring your right foot up, right foot comes in between the hands. Open up through the chest, squeeze and tuck underneath of the pelvis, like we said before, and drop through the hips. Like I said in one of the previous classes, it's all in the hips when we're doing these stretches. So pick up that back knee, left foot comes up to right. All in the hips in regards to where you tilt the hips. It's going to create a different intensity of stretch. Now just stay in this forward fold position and give yourself a few breaths there. Keep them long, deep breaths. And just testing the body's reaction to this breath at this early stage. You can feel it let go a little bit already. The body starts to trust you that you're not going to be jolting into these areas. Muscle spindles start to dampen their hands up in the sky. Dampen their reflex to being in this lengthened position. So it allows your muscle to have a little bit more length. Inhale up in the sky, both hands up, forward fold, right foot comes back, drop the back knee, we'll do one full sun salutation now. Open up with the hips, drop through the hips. And this is going to prepare us. Took the back toe, left foot comes back. For our first stretch, the lizard lunge, we're going to do 3 different little variations there, but we're staying in the stretches for a long period of time. Come up, drop onto the chest, extend through. I've got cushions in my face. Draw the shoulders back, tuck the toes, big push up, and then back into your down facing dog there. Breathe it out. Tilt the hips forwards. Right foot into the sky, right foot comes forwards. Drop the back knee, open up through the chest. Now what we'll move on to in a second is we'll move on to a little bit of a straddle flow, and you'll know what I mean in a second. Left foot comes up towards the right, forward fold again, just drop there. The different areas of the body we'll be moving into today's hamstrings, glutes, thighs, quads, adductors, and the groin. Hands come together, rise up into the sky. So we're pretty much covering most of the hip musculature. Hands come down. We go up again. This time we come all the way back down. You're going to step back with your left foot. Drop the back knee down. And I want you to stay here. Stay here in this deep lunge position. Draw the shoulders back. Sink through the hips. We'll do 3 breaths in each of these positions. For 1. 2, squeeze through this backbone cheek. For 3. Every time you exhale, you sink into that space. Alright, walk the hands round towards the central point. Pick up the back knee and come into your straddle position here. Forward fold there.
Forward 4, we do 3 breaths here. So for 1, for 2, feel the body let go. Last one. Sometimes I have people in my classes who they're holding the breath in these stretches, start to walk the hands round to the left foot. And when people do that, they're not giving themselves any favours and they won't get anywhere near the amount of progression that they want to get. Just do another 1 breath there. You've been there for 3 breaths. Talking too much. Pick the back, knee up, walk back round towards the central point. Spend another 3 breaths there. We haven't moved on to any of the long stretches yet. This is just a case of us slowly easing into it. Walk round towards the front foot again. This time, come up into the sky, into this crescent position, arms up, and look at the thumbs if you want to. Keep the fingers there. Drop through the hips still. This is going to help you out on the first stretch. Both hands come down, walk to the inside, tuck the back toe, come up into this forward fold again. The legs straddle out to the side. Take a few more breaths there. 1 more. Walk round towards the back of the mat. Again, open up to the top. Fingers together, drop through the hips. When we come back round to the opposite side, we'll be going into our first long stretch, and we're probably spending about 2 to 3 minutes in these stretches, because that's where we get that development from. The longer you stay in them, the more the body just starts to sink down. Come back into the central point, spend 1 breath there. And walk round towards the front. Now try and get a nice long position with this back leg. So kick out the knee, nice and far. But you still want to be grounding through the heel of the front foot. Don't let yourself come onto the toes. So if you feel like this foot's too far and you're stretching and your heel's coming off the floor, you probably need to bring this front foot a little bit further forwards. And also maybe about shoulder width apart with both of the feet here. And you can take these pillows that you've got nearby to get ourselves down into the stretch first of all. And all you're basically doing is you're bringing the elbows down towards the cushions here. Try and keep the foot flat, this front foot. Try and keep the foot flat through, pressing through the knuckle of the big toe into the floor and grounding through the heel of that front foot as well. And you're just letting yourself sink down here using this focus and attention. Maybe it feels uncomfortable already. You'll be targeting through the inner groin on this front leg, also hip flexor on the back leg. Depends on where you're most tight. And then we can slowly start to walk down if you can by using 1 less cushion. But try not to fidget in the position. And this is where a little bit of self-discipline comes in, that you can stay still, you can just remove yourself from the experience of discomfort, or more so the thoughts that come with this feeling that you associate with discomfort. Only if you feel up to it, you can bring both elbows down, but it needs to be still grounding through the knuckle of this front foot and also the heel. Taking a few breaths there. Again, these are just different variations that I'm going to show you in a second. If you want to go deeper, what I would say is walk the hands out towards the front, let the chest sink through. Stay on one of the earlier forms that I showed you if that feels enough for you. This is an intense stretch, especially when you're spending a long time here. Sink through deeper. Probably feels like a really, really long time. And funnily enough, I've just been for a run, so I can feel this a little bit more than usual. Now I want you to go a little bit light through the hands, and I want you to walk this foot forwards. Again, see if you've got it available to you. Come down the elbows. If not, that might make it a bit more intense. You can bring one of the pillows into action. You haven't got much longer here. Keep grounding down through the knuckle of that front foot, big toe. One more breath. And walk up onto the hands. Be gentle here because this will feel pretty uncomfortable to come out of the stretch. Back into this 4-point kneeling and just take a couple of pumps from bringing the knee up towards the front and towards the rear. Maybe a few twirls through the leg. And then bring that foot back through to the front. You might be feeling a little bit of heat around that area as well, and that's understandable. You've been there for a while. Tuck the back toe, you're releasing a lot of this tension. We'll make our way around to the opposite side. If you want to bring your cushions round, you can. I'm going to leave them there for now, but make sure that you, if you need them, that you use them. So coming on to the opposite side, from here, where we want to go is firstly to the breath. Settle yourself in. Now start to come down onto one cushion before you go straight into the position that I'm in now. You can use the one cushion. Again, try and keep this grounded into the floor. This is a very good hip opener for runners. You need this extended position through the back leg to allow ourselves to activate through the glute on the rear leg. It allows us to get more propulsion. Maybe take another pillow away if you've got that available to you. Spend another 30 seconds or so here, and then I'll start to move the hands further towards the front and then stretch the leg out slightly, a little bit more of an extended lizard lunge. Maybe if you're finding it really hard to stay in these positions and you can't keep your mind from being distracted, then have a little bit of quiet music in the background. Set yourself up for this. If you've got it available to you, walk the hands out towards the front. Deep breaths. Feel that hip open right out. And it sort of goes through these phases where it feels okay and it feels a little bit worse. You're always staying on the right side of the pain and the grimace. Don't move into this place where you're because that again is going to have that reflex action and your muscle's going to slam on. Now take a little bit of the pressure off, walk that foot forwards if you want to. Maybe come down onto the elbows or stack some pillows back up, whatever again you have available to yourself. And then let gravity move you down through the hips. So you're moving down through this area. Keep dropping through. Next stretch that we'll be coming up to You can use the wall on that. I have a few options for you again. Alright, slowly walk up there. Bring that left leg back onto all fours and start to pump that leg back and forth. Get the blood back into this area. Wind it round one way a couple of times, back round the other. And then bring the leg back to the top. Back into your straddle position. Just take a little bit of forward fold there. Release, and then we'll go into a really nice hip opener for the glutes. We'll take a step towards the front now. We'll do one quick sun salutation. Hands into the sky, slight back bend, exhale, forward fold again. Left foot comes back this time, drop onto the back knee, open up, and probably feel it through that hip to the rear. Both hands down, tuck the back toe, right foot up, breathe out there. Up onto the toes, down up the chest, extend through, shoulders back into Bhujangasana. Tuck the toes and then push back into downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Okay, we take our left foot into the sky, left foot forwards, drop into the back knee, open up through the chest again. You feel the difference in the hips. Go a little bit further down. I bet I am there in the video if you're looking at me from the start to the finish. My hips feel a lot more open. Hands come together, rise into the sky. Have the hands together, or you can have the palms facing up. Look up towards the thumbs, forward fold there, and then drop onto your bum. Now there's a couple of variations, like I said. You can have right ankle onto your left knee here. Bring the hands back behind you, and then you bring your heel up towards your bum. Now maybe that feels like a stretch for you already, and the way that you can increase the stretch is firstly doing this, just by lifting the chest through, and basically by lifting the chest through, you're having an effect on the pelvis, you're tilting the pelvis forwards, which allows you to get a stretch through this right bum cheek. I'll give you a little bit of a different view there as well. So, as you can see, this is the leg that we're stretching on. If you want to make it a little bit more intense, then just pick up your bum, bring it a little bit closer towards that heel, and then walk the hands in. Now that is intense for me now. We're going to stay there. You can actually use the wall, but I think for most people this is probably intense enough, and if it feels like it's too much, then just bring your bum back slightly. Bring the bum back slightly to where you started. And you can think at this point as well about actually pushing the knee out slightly on this right leg here. And by pushing it out, you're going to open the hip up even more. Keep drawing back with the shoulders. I'll show you a little variation whilst you're in that pose of with using the wall, and it just locks you into place a little bit more. I'll put my bum right into the back of the wall. Hips are literally in this L shape of the wall that we've created, and then what you can do is you can pull up this foot. Now again, that is very, very tight for me, and just being there, alright, just being there. Again, if you're able to do it, you can create a little bit of downward pressure with the knee, but just staying here takes a little bit less on the arms. And obviously the more flexible you become, the more you can bring this heel in towards your bum. But you always have to be careful of how the knee's feeling here, because you can create a lot of torque on the knee, and that can cause you issues. So always try to think about moving into these stretches with
a lot less of intensity to start with, and then if you feel like you can go a little bit further from there, then that's where you can just start to increase the intensity of the stretch. Spend another 30 seconds there. Keep in this position. And release that foot out. And take the hands down behind you, and then knees walk over from left to right. And set yourself up into the starting position again. It'll be left foot on top of right this time, and then bring the heel up towards the bum, draw the shoulders back. If that feels okay, then you can drop the bum in towards the heel and walk the hands in. And then feel free to use the wall and the other variation that I showed you. We'll just spend another 2 minutes here. With the wall, I think you get the most amount of torque on the knee. So maybe if you're just starting off, I think this is probably the best position for you. And you can use posture to just bring you into the stretch if you need to. As long as you're feeling it on this outer hip, then you're in the right place that we need to be. Keep pushing out that knee, opening up through. We'll be moving on to pigeon stretch on one of the later classes, on the next hip class that we have. And as you'll see on this week and for the weeks onwards as well, is that we'll be concentrating on the hips more than we will be on other areas of the body, just because of the amount of connections that are into the hips and how much of a role they play in a lot of our functioning in everyday life, on posture, on movement, alright, as we move. We've obviously, one of the main things we are on is our feet. The legs are connected into the hips, so the amount of movement that occurs from there is phenomenal, really. Spend another 30 seconds there. You feel it ease off. Keep coming back to the breath. Few more breaths. Maybe you can increase the stretch, increase the stretch there. One more breath. Slowly bring that foot down and pull in the knees towards the chest. A little bit of a bear hug. For the next stretch, I'm going to show you a different position, and it'll allow us to, it'll allow you to get a little bit of a better vantage point to get the most out of the stretch. Using the wall for these next two stretches, it's one stretch, we're just making a little bit of an adjustment for it. And basically, it's called the couch stretch. You're going to place your foot, or the front of your foot, onto the wall. Bring the knee in as close as you're able to handle. Now, just have a little bit of a test and adjust for this first time that you do it. Don't worry if you can't get as close in with your knee as me. I can get mine in all the way there and I'm okay. But I would say start on the side of caution, bring it maybe, a foot's length away from the wall, and then take your weight towards the front and bring your other foot up. And that, as you raise up, you'll probably find that you're getting a huge stretch down the front of the quad already in this position. So if that's enough for you, then stick with that. Don't do anything else. And then take your hands and interlink the fingers onto this front thigh. And you can, if you want to increase the stretch, you can tilt the pelvis. So you tilt the pelvis, and basically what you're doing there is you're getting this point further away from this point, which is obviously working through the rec fem here, which is a big quadricep muscle. So we tilt underneath, place the hands here, and that, just by pushing away with your hands on the front thigh, is it's going to give you a little bit more of a stretch through the quad. Stay there, keep squeezing and tucking. And if you want to, you can have a little bit of a play about of moving the hips forward slightly, but you've always got to have that tucking underneath of the pelvis. And I start to feel it right down into the centre of the muscle belly there. Tuck, tuck, tuck. Again, on this front foot, try and have your weight through the heel, not towards the toes. Keep that position. That's maybe a really intense stretch for you. I know it is for most people. If you're a heel striker when you run, then you are definitely going to feel it, because most heel strikers are very quad dominant, and they're using this break in action by pushing into the floor rather than propelling themselves forwards and using the posterior chain, using the musculature on the back of the body. I'm going to spend another maybe 2 or 3 breaths there, and then we're going to change this up slightly. We're going to change it up just by bringing our weight back and extending our arms up. Squeeze and tuck there. Alright, lift up. Now that may feel too much for you, so if it does, just bring yourself up slowly. There should never be any sudden movements when we're doing these deep stretches. Trying to stop ourselves from doing too much. If you want to take your hands onto the back of your head, you can take your hands onto your back of your head. Stay here. And if you want to, I like to walk this front foot in a little bit more, sit my bum right back onto the heel, and then take my arms up above my head and squeeze and tuck there. And it's a little bit like a single leg saddle pose. And that is intense. Just going to hold there for another 30 seconds or so. And we'll go on to the other leg. We've got 2 more stretches after this. Been doing a lot of single leg stuff. The next one is still using the wall, but we're going to use a double leg movement. Bring yourself out of that slowly. Both knees down. Just come into a high kneeling position. Maybe have a twist through the hips either way. Then bring that other knee in towards the wall. I think it's a lot better having both knees bent to start with, and then you literally placing the knee down where you want it to be. So place the knee down, place the front of the foot, and then take your weight on your hands and bring the opposite foot forwards. If you find that hard to balance, then maybe have something to your side, but if you walk this front foot out a little bit further, increase that base of support, and it'll make it a whole lot easier. You're going to link the fingers, put it onto the front of the thigh, squeeze and tuck through the pelvis again. Feel the quad open up. And like all these stretches, we're not holding them at like 100%. It's not like going to the gym where you're giving it 110% in regards to contraction of the musculature. We're trying to sit on this side where there's enough pressure that allows us to feel this deep stretch, but it's not going to this place that creates, moves in towards resistance because we're going too far. And you maybe find that over time that you become a little bit more tuned into this. Keep there. If you want to, again, you can
play around by bringing the hips forwards and tucking underneath with the pelvis a little bit more. I always find bringing my bum off my heel slightly by about that much, and then tucking underneath with the pelvis makes it a little bit of a better stretch for me. We're all different. You need to find what's best for yourself. And another 3 breaths there. One more. Alright. If you want to, you can try the sinking the bum back towards the heel and bringing the hands behind the head. Again, a little bit of a saddle pose, but apart from your heel is all the way to your bum and you're not, haven't got the leg out towards the side of the body. Maybe look at the saddle pose in the coming weeks. But remember, keep tucking underneath the pelvis. We spend another 30 seconds or so whilst in this position. And we'll keep this angle because it will allow you to see better for our inverted butterfly pose that we're doing next. Take one more inhale, one more exhale, and then slowly start to come out that stretch. Alright, coming into this inverted butterfly pose, this is for our adductors. The usual way that we do it is feet together. We push the knees out. Now, we can't create much downward pressure here. The only way we can, depending on your flexibility, if you're really flexible, you can create a really flat spine. I mean, I can't do that. And I've really got to work hard to keep a straight neutral spine and push down my knees. So using the wall and locking yourself into place is a really good tool. So what I want you to do from here, I'm getting my bum right into the edge of the wall. Lift yourself up all the way in. And then you're taking the soles of the feet together. And let the heels drop down towards the groin. And spend a couple of seconds there just getting used to how it feels. And then bring right hand onto right knee, left hand onto left knee. Create a little bit of downward pressure. And you're more in control of this one. Like a lot of the stretches that we've done today, we're using a little bit of guidance with ourselves by tucking underneath with the hips, pushing with the hands. The only one which we've used a lot of gravity as our friend, it was the lizard lunge at the start, letting our hips drop down towards the floor. And push out those knees. Try not to push away too much that you slide your bum away from the crease in the wall. And that'll be a good indicator to tell you if you're pushing down too hard or too little. You're just on that point of pushing yourself away from the wall. You'll feel that need to slide if you push the hands away a little bit further. I can just feel it there right on this point. You should be feeling it right down the inner groin, right down here on either side. Work through these different adductor muscles. We've got 3 there. We've got magnus, longus and brevis. Again, we can get really tight through our adductors when we're not running correctly because we start to use them as a hip extensor. If our glutes are being a little bit lazy, that's when we start to activate through the adductors too much, or maybe My glutes get tired, hamstrings get tired, then they get overloaded, and then I've had this in the past before I started doing yoga. I had an issue with my adductor, and it was because of that very reason that I've just told you. I've had all of the injuries under the sun prior to doing yoga, and touch wood, they've been pretty injury free since. Pushing away, and that's still keeping intensity of exercise and volume that I was doing before. Last 2 breaths. And you see over that period of time how my arms have got straight. So you inhale and create the space, exhale, pushing away. Okay, release off. Kick the legs up into the wall. Gives them a little bit of a waggle. I don't know why I keep using that word, but I'm actually starting to get to like it. Waggle those legs. And then we'll go on to our final stretch.
I have one more pose, so Jarashirasana, and Jarashirasana is very traditional style of stretch which you may be seen before, but I'll give you a couple of coaching points that will hopefully allow you to get more out of it. So, we've got our normal forward fold, both feet together, coming forwards. This time when you take your sole of your left foot and when you place it to the inside of the groin, pull it all the way up and try and push down this knee. And I want you to literally take your left hand, I want you to push that away and try and square your hips off towards the toes at the front. Turn the toes up, and you don't have to be able to go down and reach your toes at this point. It all depends on the amount of flexibility that you've got. We are going to be folding through, but we need to set this up first. We need to turn the body through towards this front foot. And then take your hands onto your thigh and slide them down as you exhale. And I want you to, again, if this feels too intense, you can grab a pillow. Maybe come down towards the inside here, or have one either side. And you can walk yourself down through the stages again. If you can get your elbows towards the floor, then get the elbows towards the floor. If you want to grab onto, say I'm just at this point here, if you want to grab onto the leg, create a little bit of pressure of pulling yourself in, and then drop the head through. Wherever you are, drop the head through. If you can get down towards the foot, keep the hips square on. Grab onto the foot, and now I want you to go really, really limp and relax. The only thing that should be active is this foot. When you're exhaling, if you feel like there's so much weight on your elbows, then just bring the arms a little bit further forwards and allow gravity to pull you in towards the floor. And rather than just pulling your head down and tucking underneath, try and lengthen the forehead over the kneecap. If you can't get down to the knee, don't worry about it again. Let's just say I'm up in this point on my 2 pillows. I can still keep the hips square on, and I can drop my head through. If you want to, you can take the pillows away and then you come down onto the forearms, or you may only have the hands down and part of the forearm. Keep that bottom foot contracted, keep the hips square on. And just let the breath send you further and further into the stretch. You may get a good stretch through the opposite side of the back as well.
through this QL muscle. It goes from the 12th rib all the way to the top of the hip, and we can sometimes associate this with back pain. Tuck those toes underneath, or up towards your head. Spend 3 more breaths there. 1, 2, 3. Start to walk the hands up. Have a little bit of a counter stretch by bringing both feet together, tucking underneath and coming underneath in this bridge pose. You can interlink the hands underneath the bum if you want to. Bring the bum down, we'll go opposite side. Pull, sole of the right foot, last stretch now. All the way up towards the groin. Turn the toes up on this bottom leg. Turn the hips facing forwards towards the front foot. And then again, if you want to start with the pillows down by the sides and maybe put the elbows on those. Or if you want to, it's just improvising here. There's no right or wrong, whatever feels best for you. Now, as a teacher, I would use props, but you can, if you haven't got the props there, you can just use your arms onto your thigh, and actually by doing that as well, you're pushing this knee down in towards the back of the knee down in towards the floor, rather than the tendency is when we're tight through the hamstrings, we want to flex this knee. So again, set up, push that knee away to square off, come down, let the head sink, and now just take note of where my head is here and where it ends up. And this is because I'm using the breath. You may be thinking, oh well, this is a hamstring stretch. It is a hamstring stretch, but it stretches off a whole lot of different musculature. Like I said, this QL muscle, quadratus lumborum, and also works through the whole of this back line of the fascial system of the body. You see there, I was maybe a couple of inches off my forehead coming to my knee, and now my forehead's down. You'll get the same progression. Same progression, not getting down your head down to your knee, but the amount of length that you do get. If you learn to just relax in these postures. Maybe remove the cushions if you need to. But don't push it too far. Remember, stay the right side of the grimace. Remember, if it's the first long developmental set of stretches that you've done, then it will get easier. The sensitivity of the muscle and being down in this position will feel a lot less the further you go along. Keep the hips square on. With a few breaths in. Slowly rise up there, draw the shoulders back, both feet round shoulders apart, squeeze and tuck, lift up. Bit of a counter stretch. And letting those hands underneath your bum. Well done. That is a pretty intense session. If that's the first time that you've gone this deep into your stretches and this long,
then it's going to feel uncomfortable, and it may feel uncomfortable for a few days after. Very similar experience to going to the gym and you haven't been for a while, like DOMS, delayed onset muscle soreness. It might last for a little bit of a while after you've done this, but just know that you've changed the structure of the muscle, you've started moving deep into the muscle, and that's what we're trying to do here. Rangefinder is trying to find more range, and that's exactly what we've done today. Well done.